Good morning, guys, and happy Saturday to you. Today is live journal entry number 2. This is week 2 of doing this, and so this week the journal prompt said, did you know that you were in the middle of trauma while it was happening? Or if not, when did you? So, on the ever progressing need to heal and work through trauma, as I believe everybody should be, I would have to say being a person that has dealt with trauma for my entire life in various forms and degrees, that is not really a simple question to answer, but I would say that sometimes I knew that I was in the midst of trauma while I was going through it. Other times I did not know that I was in the midst of trauma while I was going through it. As a child, you don't really understand what that means at all. You have no real concept of trauma. You just know that things don't feel right, or that they do feel right. But as an adult, that's still deceptive sometimes, because, and I'm not trying to call people out here, but if you happen to be with a narcissist or a gaslighter, you're not always going to know. In the case of being with those kind of people, it's really, really hard, because they are very insidious and deceptive, and they lie to you, and they manipulate you, and they use your insecurities against you. They use your previous trauma against you. They use the trauma that they are currently causing against you. They are very charming sometimes, and charismatic, to the point where you'll sit there and you will be questioning your own sanity, because they will have you believing that you are crazy, that what you think, feel, and believe and know are wrong. And you won't really know what to believe about yourself, the situation, them, because it's not always bad. They're not always bad. There's good times. And even the bad times, they convince you that it's you. They will go above and beyond to let you know that you are the one that is to blame and that there's nothing really going on. There's nothing wrong. It's all in your head. And sometimes you won't even realize how far you've fallen down the rabbit hole of crazy and trauma until it's over. Because you are in a loop of trauma where they are the one causing you trauma, but then they'll be there to tell you that they love you and that they're sorry and that they won't do it again. They promise. Or even if that's not the case, they will let you know that the world is out to get you and they're the only ones that can protect you, and that the rest of the world is the one that's to blame, and that they're only trying to do what's right for you. I've been through that. I have been through that more times than I would like to admit. Narcissists and gaslighters throw up red flags. They do. But because of their ability to use you against yourself, you will question everything constantly, trying to figure out if what you actually are seeing is real. And I have gotten to the point where, because I have been surrounded by narcissists and gaslighters my whole life, which is unfortunate for me and anybody else who finds themselves to be in that position. But it's not only them. It's not only to do with dealing with narcissists and gaslighters. I came into this world born to a woman who had her own issues. She had mental health issues on top of the fact that she was an alcoholic and a drug addict. And I'm guessing that that was my biological mother's way of coping with her own trauma. Unfortunately, while doing that, she ended up causing me more trauma. My biological mother was murdered when I was 6. So I never really got to question why. I never got to ask her why she chose to do what she did to me. But she would leave me for days on end to feed myself out of a garbage can. And then when I was 3.5 years old, she had my brother. And so she left me with an infant to feed and take care of. At 3.5, you don't understand trauma. You don't know that you are going through trauma. You just know that you need to survive. And so I did the best that I could. But that affects me still today. I hoard food because I don't trust that I will have enough food to eat tomorrow. I don't believe that I am safe and secure in that area of my life because I was literally starved, and that took hold in here, you know? It has done long lasting damage to my ability to realize that I'm okay, that I will be able to eat, that I will be just fine. I hoard all kinds of things because I know that in my mind at least that I won't have access to it later on because I don't know where I'm going to be able to get my next pair of shoes or clothes or toothpaste or. And it's not to the point where I need an intervention, thank God, and I have support, but I didn't know that those were trauma reactions until I started going to counseling and dealing with some of my past and trying to work through a lot of my past issues, my trauma responses, and trying to understand why I operate in the manner that I do in a lot of ways. I have PTSD because of going through trauma. I was with a guy who I loved him. He had his own issues. Mental health issues were not something that were dealt with in his family. The way that you dealt with them in his family were to shove them down and pretend that they didn't exist. And so that led to me walking into my home and finding him unalive at his own hands. And I knew at that moment that that was trauma. I knew that that was something that I needed to deal with. I knew that walking in and finding him was something that I had to deal with, because I couldn't even be in my own home anymore. Every time that I walked into my home, I would see him in the spot that I found him in, and I would smell the blood. The trauma was real. And I was in a position in my life at that time where I could understand that and deal with that. I went to grief counseling, and I went to counseling so that I could process that. It's still hard. And this is years later. Years later. That was in 2014, and this is 2023, and it's still hard. That's something that will never go away. I will always have that in the back of my head. But what led up to that, the consequences of deciding to stay with him up until that point, even knowing that he was an alcoholic, knowing that he was spiraling, knowing that he became very volatile, and that he would pull guns on me, and he would come at me and try to be physically aggressive with me. At that time, it didn't really register with me that that was traumatic, that that was trauma. I knew that it was not okay, but I didn't realize the impact that it would have. I didn't realize how much damage that it did to me. I didn't understand at the time that that was something that I should have been dealing with and getting help for, because I just kept pushing it down, pushing it aside, and pretending like nothing was wrong. And that never does good for anyone. When you detach yourself from your own emotions just to be able to take care of somebody else's, that's trauma. And it's very hurtful to yourself. And it's hurtful to the person that you're doing it for, because it doesn't teach them anything. It never causes them to have to look at themselves or get help. And in the end, no matter how many times you tell a person that they need help because they're hurting you, It's not on the person that's hurting you to fix you. It's not on that person to deal with your trauma, your emotional responses to it, or lack thereof. That's on you. And that's something that I had to learn the hard way. I have dealt with trauma in my family because I was adopted when I was 7.5, something like that. And my adoptive parents have been pretty narcissistic. And they believe that the only way to do anything is their way, but they never took into account that I was dealing with trauma from my past. They never intentionally tried to keep me in any kind of program or get me any kind of help for my neurodivergent issues. They expected me to be the same as everybody else. But when they got me, they knew that I was ADHD. They knew. It's in my file. I don't care how many times they tell me they didn't know, because that's a lie. And they can continue telling me whatever they want to, but they are part of my trauma. I didn't know that. I didn't know that until recently. I just knew that I felt separated from the world at large. I knew that I was struggling harder and working harder than everybody else around me to accomplish the same things. And I wasn't making headway. And still to this day, and I'm not saying that they haven't done a lot for me, because they have. They have. In their own way, they've done a great deal for me. It wasn't the stuff that I needed done for me in a lot of areas and ways, or the way that it needed to be done, but they did do a lot for me. They haven't neglected me in a lot of ways, but that doesn't mean that they didn't contribute to my trauma. And no, I didn't know. I didn't know. And I'm still learning and working through it. I am 41 years old, and it was only a year and a half ago that I even learned that I was autistic. They saw that I was struggling. They saw that I was not connecting with people right. They saw that I was having problems with my education, or working, or any number of things that comes along with being neurodivergent. And they didn't do anything to help. And still to this day, they don't believe that I'm entitled to boundaries. They don't even believe that I am entitled to the same respect as everyone else. They treat me like I'm 5, and they talk down to me because I am different. I process the world differently. I see the world differently. But that doesn't mean I'm less. It doesn't mean I'm stupid. I'm not. I'm not stupid. I'm incredibly intelligent. I test very highly. I have a very high IQ. I am what they would consider uh, a genius in my IQ. Not that I can do anything with it because I don't process things the same way. So I can't utilize the information that I have in a way that is helpful to me. I don't know how to do that. Nobody taught me. So, pardon me, my dog just decided to go a little bit apey for a second. But anyway, I'm still processing trauma. I'm still learning about different things that I didn't realize were trauma. But in the end, I've come to the realization that I am the only one that can do anything about it. I have to learn my triggers. I have to learn how I respond to stress and trauma, and I need to learn what it takes to get myself out of that. I need to learn to heal. I'm not saying that it's going to be easy, because it's not. It hasn't been in the last few years that I've been dealing with it. And I'm not saying that I'm not going to fall flat on my face again tomorrow, because I have a tendency of repeating things until I learn them. But now I've put myself in a position where I am living intentionally and working towards bettering myself and processing my trauma, even the ones I didn't know about, even the ones I still don't know about. Because as you work through one event or trigger, another one will eventually pull up. It just will. That's the way it works, unfortunately. Or maybe fortunately. Because at least if they're coming up, you have the ability to address them. I am pretty sure that I have a long road to go. It took me half a lifetime to get here. It's probably going to take half a lifetime to work through it, you know? Nothing comes fast and easy when it took time to get to the point where you're at. I'm proud of myself for making the strides that I've taken to deal with what I've done. And I'm going to continue. I strive to be the best me that I can. And the only way that I'm going to be able to do that is to be able to admit that there's a problem, that I don't know everything, that I myself am not always the best judge of what I need, and that I don't always know how to handle the things that trigger me. But I'm choosing not to live in my trauma anymore. I'm choosing to do something about it. I hope you all choose the same. Learn what triggers you. Learn what your traumas are. Don't live in them. Don't stay there. You deserve better. You deserve a life where you are happy and balanced, and where you have the ability to process the trauma that you have taken on and to see the red flags and roadblocks as they come up, because that in and of itself, that's one of the best ways that you're ever going to find of maintaining a trauma-free existence. Don't let other people's crazy bring you down. And don't take it on yourself. And just because you've been put through the ringer doesn't make you less. It's given you experiences that other people may not have had, and it's taught you life lessons that other people haven't learned. I'm not saying that that's always a good thing, because a lot of times that's a very hurtful thing. But use what you know. Use it to your advantage. And the next time that it comes about, walk the other way fast. If you come across the narcissist or the gaslighter and you can pick that up, if you even think that you're dealing with that, watch and listen. There's always clues. Walk away. If it's physical trauma, I don't know. I've dealt with some, not a lot. I can't really speak to a lot of physical trauma. But if you're in a relationship where physical violence is happening, just know it's never okay. Never. Nobody has the right to put hands on you in any way. Ever. They don't have a right to bully you, verbally abuse you, put you down. They don't have the right to do any of that. So if you find yourself in the situation of any of that, find somewhere safe. And then as soon as possible, start processing that. However you have to. I recommend counseling, but if you can't or won't do that, look to YouTube. There are always videos on the subject that you're looking to. Or if you're religious, go and talk to your religious leader. Talk to a friend. Or if it isn't family related, talk to your family. Talk to someone. Deal with your trauma. Don't wait until you are halfway through your life to start processing the stuff that has been done to you or that you've done to yourself. Deal with it. I love you all, and I hope that you guys have the best day. I wish nothing but the best for you. And if you find value in what I'm doing and you haven't done so yet, like, share, subscribe, comment. That way you can find me easier. That way other people can find me easier. This has been live journal entry number 2. I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend also. I will talk to you soon.